Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Hello and welcome to Greenville Grit. I am Terry Williams.
I'm Michael Overton, and Terry, we have a wonderful guest with us, PJ Connolly, the winner of the District 5 seat. PJ, thank you for coming on the show.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate
You're very welcome.
Glad to
We're going to
have you
have some discussion. You guys have kind of been in the midst of planning session, your first planning session, I might add, and I'm sure the excitement of that just keeps you up at night. So let's talk about the sponsors that allow the show to go on. So thank you so much, Greenville Toyota, for your support from day one on this show. Terry, we've done over 2 years now?
Yes, starting our third year.
Starting our third year. So thank you, Greenville Toyota. If you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion or a new used car, go see Craig Ghost and the Greenville Toyota team. Visit them on the web at greenvilletoyota.com or in person right across from Fresh Market on Memorial Drive. Got to thank Ribeyes Steakhouse. Look for a great atmosphere and good food. Visit them at the corner of Fire Tower in Arlington and Greenville, as well as a location near the Bob Martin Agricultural Center in Williamston. Also, the Overton Group Residential Professionals, Overton Residential Properties. Actually, I messed that up. Terry, you've just started with that.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, well, we're ready to serve you. Myself, Trey, Michelle, Connors, Alana, Jones, and we're ready to serve you with all your residential needs. We're really excited about being involved with the Overton Group and Overton Residential Properties.
On the web at overtonresidential.com. Also, the Overton Group Commercial Real Estate Leasing Sales, Business Brokerage, and Property Management. So we're going to take our 2-minute commercial break, come back, we'll get going with PJ Connolly. See you in 2. Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. I am Michael Overton, along with my co-host Terry Williams. And Terry, we went through a lot last year before the election, interviewing a ton of people, and we're excited that PJ Connolly was able to take the District 5 seat and bring some vision to this city in terms of budgeting, which is, I know, one of the things, sharpen your pencils, that you really went after on your campaign trail.
Absolutely.
And so you just went through your planning session, kind of getting into the discussions, and the Daily Reflector did cover some of it.
A little bit.
But one of the items the Daily Reflector covered, I'd like you to discuss, was the deficit that we're looking at from the last budget cycle. It seems that Calvin and all of his ability to manage budgets and raise taxes has run us into a deficit over the last 2 years.
Looks like it.
So how do we fix that, PJ, going forward, and where do we go from here, trying not to raise taxes, but also you can't cut yourself to prosperity either. So where do we go?
Well, there's two options to that. You can either increase your revenue or you decrease your expenses. In a perfect world, we'll do both of those. Mm-hmm. The first thing that we can do right now is we can go through our budget process, which we're looking forward to. We've got several dates that are on the calendar right now for the budgeting process that we've allocated through the next 3 or 4 months. And we'll go through there and we'll make each of the department heads, kind of give us their pitch as far as what's necessary for them to be able to operate on an annual basis, and that's where we'll start right now. I mean, we're going to have to look at it, as far as the budget, being able to slash, unnecessary costs. Any way we can save money, we're going to have to save money. But then that kind of brings you to the fact that we do also need to increase our revenue. One of the things that we talked to Roger Johnson, the Economic Development Director, about is, we've got to bring jobs here. We got to bring industries here. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand is, we have 2 great industries in our town. We have, East Carolina University and we have Vidant, but what they don't understand is those are off the all their property that they own is off the tax records. So they're not paying ad valorem taxes on the properties that they own. So that kind of puts us in a position where we don't have as much ad valorem tax revenue as some of the other cities and the competitive cities that we're up against. So we kind of have to heavily, use our sales tax revenue that we're bringing in on an annual basis as well. And people may not understand it, but we're bringing in about $32 million in ad valorem taxes, and we're bringing $16 million in sales tax revenue, which means that tells you that people are coming to our area and they're spending money on a regular basis, and that helps bring up, some of the lost income that we're receiving off of the loss for ad valorem taxes. So That was a mouthful.
It was. I'm trying to kind of take it all
I
in.
know, that was a lot. Well, somewhere in the article I was reading, somewhere, I don't know if it was online, about even some talk about increasing building permits and things like that to increase revenue. Was there discussion in your...
That our fees were much lower.
That our fees are lower than fees throughout the state. Was there discussion about that? Because we feel like they're already high enough, but were there fees about that? And was there any report given, and it might be preliminary, about how the building permit fees are going right now, how new construction is in our county or city right now?
You know, we looked at it from a competitive standpoint with the numbers that we receive, you know, and those numbers can be skewed any way you want because you can pick and choose whatever cities you want. But of the numbers that in the cities that were on the report that we saw, we were by far the lowest cost for permits. You know, we are not, from what I took from the segment of the planning session on the permits, we are not covering our expenses for permits alone, you know, for running that department. But we are way below what all the other competitive cities and even Pitt County is charging for the permits. So that was briefly spoken about, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time on that. We'll probably get a little bit heavier in that during the budget process, but it was kind of a brief overview just so we knew competitive wise where we were with fees.
So you mentioned speaking with each department. So before we had discussion about this.
And this isn't really part of the budget.
No, it's not. It's not. But so you all will speak with each department and let them tell you where they feel like they need most of their expenditures and where they can cut back. So that will help you when you actually start looking at the budget, rather than say let the city manager come and say this is what we want. That's sort of your view on how you think it should be done. Yeah.
I mean, I think so. And luckily, you know, somebody that's new in addition to this that's going to be a great asset is Michael Cowan. You know, one of our new assistant city managers. He is a CPA. He came in over from Pitt County, and he's going to be an asset. He's kind of like me. He likes to dig down in the numbers. So I mean, he's going to be an asset. And we've set up, I want to say it's 3 or 4 separate meetings that we're gonna go over the budget process that we didn't have, that weren't on the books. And I think that's going to help us out a lot. I mean, we have to sit down and see what the needs are for each department. Because I mean, it's easy to rubber stamp something. That's the easy way to do it. But I mean, when you look at the gross picture of what's going on right now, when your expenses exceed your revenue, you have a serious problem. And when you start dumping or digging into the general fund on an annual basis, you know, we're required to keep 14% in our general fund on an annual basis. That's for, you know, reserve in case something were to happen. We could still run the government for 2 more months. And
just to clarify, we're not technically required to keep 14. That's just a policy our city has. I believe the state only requires either 6 or 7. Isn't that correct?
Maybe 8. I'm not sure.
But if you go below that amount, you have the risk of lowering your credit score.
Well, and I'm not saying we should.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should. And I think the reason I made the comment, I'm going to turn, because I don't want him to feel like he has to respond to that. But the reason I made my comment early on is 4 years ago, during the budget process, was the first time they really dug into the budget. This is when Dennis Mitchell went on, they went department by department, slashed a lot. And this was right in the midst of the downturn of the economy. And we ended up having a budget surplus at the end of the year. This last time they did the budget, they did not dig at all. They let city manager come in, they stamped it, they move on, and now we have a deficit. And I think the reason I made my comment, apologize if I hurt anyone's feelings, but that is the importance of knowing, and that's what you're going to find out as you go through that budget process, PJ. You guys, you know, y'all are answering to everyone in your district. You've got to know those numbers. You've got to know what's coming in, and you got to know what's going out, especially what's going out. And of course, you want to trust your management team. That's why they're there. That's their full-time job. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it still comes back to the council to say, hey, give them the direction, and here's what you got to do.
Well, we were speaking a few minutes ago about your ad valorem taxes. Now, the new assessments are coming out this month. Everybody will be getting their letters. So
can't wait.
Yay.
So was some of the information you all were reviewing have to do with what you already know is going to be in effect, what we're going to see in our letters with our new tax assessments, knowing taxes will be needed to be raised, or none of those decisions were even spoke about yet, or what do we have to look forward to when we're getting these letters?
If I have anything to say, we're not raising taxes. We will not raise taxes by no means.
George Bush said that.
We will not. I mean, it's briefly we heard a little bit about that. From what I understand, as they said, they're having a tough time getting those exact numbers to find out exactly how much it's going to impact our municipality. But from what I understand, it's going to be a little bit over 3% across the board as far as that. But, my gut instinct is, that'll be great. That'll be a great addition. That'll be additional revenue for us, but I don't think we need to plan on that. I think we need to plan on what we have right now, and if we have additional revenue coming in, that's great. That'll give us a little bit of a cushion when we go back through the budgeting process. But, I don't want to go ahead and say, well, great, we're going to have 3% extra so we can spend, 2.5% or 3% to be where we're at the same place. We still need to make cuts in the budget.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. It's just kind of gotten grossly out of control right now.
Well, there'll be some people who get those assessments and then they've purchased homes during that time and they have their up-to-date closing statements and their tax new assessments might be much higher than what they paid for theirs, be an appeal period there. So some of that might be skewed numbers anyway, where they win their appeals and their tax assessed value doesn't go up, so you can't depend on that extra. The city can't depend on that extra income anyway. So I'm interested to know how that all pans out.
Well, I know we spent a lot of time on the budget, but I think you brought up a key point earlier, and in the planning session, I'm sure some of the things that you are talking about, and we can talk about the Tar River Legacy Plan that was brought out, but I think we also need to talk about the importance of economic development.
Absolutely.
I think, Terry, you and I have had a lot of discussion on the show that retail jobs don't build your infrastructure in town. They don't build your economic base. Granted, those jobs are important. They employ a lot of people, but they're generally lower wage jobs. And the importance is of what we need. And this one thing I respect about Roger, I got to hear him speak some yesterday, was the importance of those back room jobs that do have the opportunity to bring 60, 70, 80,000 a year. And how aggressive the city needs to be in making sure that we do have our infrastructure and our packages together to bring these companies in. Did y'all talk any about that in the planning? Yeah,
we did. And he gave us about 3 or 4 different industries that he thought that, the city of Greenville needed to kind of focus on. And he's got a neat perspective. I think he's going to be a fresh set of eyes and fresh perspective, that Greenville hasn't seen in a while. I don't know if he presented anything to you about the virtual buildings or not.
We talked a little bit about
and I thought that was kind of a neat concept, because it's tough. I mean, when you're bringing somebody to Greenville and you're trying to get them to commit to coming here, and you don't have a building to show, hey, this is where it would be located, this is kind of what it would look like, and creating a virtual building, allows you not to have to build, a large building and spend millions of dollars on hoping that you're going to find somebody. It kind of gives you a digital idea of what it would look like and how we could house their company. And I think, he's going to be an asset. I really felt like he did a really nice job during the planning session, and I hope that he keeps up, I guess his plan and stays focused on getting us some more jobs. We talk about retail. Retail's not the optimum type of jobs, but it goes
important.
Yeah, I mean it goes back to when I was talking about how much sales tax revenue we have, and it shows that people from our area, not just in Greenville and not just in Pitt County, but I mean from different areas, they're coming here and they're spending money with the sales tax revenue. So it's important that we do get some of those jobs, and we do attract retail places, more restaurants and different things that will help our economy out and have people spend more money. But when it comes down to economic development, it comes down to good quality jobs. The economic development's not about building things; it's about improving people's lives. And offering them better health care, offering them better way of life, and the only way to do that is to get better jobs here.
Right. And on the retail side, I mean, I think it is important to continue to recruit the retailers. We would love to see the Trader Joe's. We would love to see the Costco's. We'd love to see the Whole Foods come to town. And we did speak about this in our meeting that we had yesterday with several other commercial brokers in the Economic Development Department. And what we said is, the city put together this package, and we've got to educate a lot of these large retailers like a Trader Joe's who says, well, Greenville market's just not big enough, or the income levels aren't where we need to be. But when you look at the big picture that we do pull from Beaufort and Hyde and Pamlico counties, and they come and they shop here, and possibly Wilson County and Nash County and other places, they don't go to Raleigh, they may come to Greenville. We've got to show that on a package to these retailers, like this is actually your market,
And
not
they've got
just
to look at
this.
us as being regional.
Yeah.
And drawing in those
And
crowds.
that's part of just being in Eastern North Carolina. So
That's
it's
right.
an education standpoint. But, yeah, absolutely. And I've never said those jobs aren't important, but I've also seen a focus in the past by our city that's all they talk about is the retail jobs. Only. No,
Right.
we need the strong base jobs. We've got to do the producing jobs that build more than the city can take and ship out. That's the difference between a basic and a non-basic type job.
And we just recently had another company announce they might be laying off 163 people by April 9th. And that's going to be important. Then you've got 163 people in our economy that were employed no longer are employed. So I mean, we have to, and one of the things I always say is, we can't depend on East Carolina University and we can't depend on Vidant to employ everyone. We need to have other companies coming here to our town to be able to provide quality employment, so people, have different options, and we have different different places that people can work beyond just the university and the hospital.
Yeah,
that's right. So, what other types of planning projects did you all talk about? Things that
about
you
fun
would
stuff.
like? Yeah, some interesting,
job
fun
talk.
new
That's
things.
not fun. Budgets are definitely not fun.
that still might either bring jobs or bring people, to our community that are looking for either recreational or other types of projects that you all might have discussed.
Town Common.
Yeah,
Town
that's a big
Common was
thing.
it. That was kind of going into it. I had talked to McLean Godley before we went into our planning session, and he and I both kind of talked about it, how we thought that it was very important to really focus on getting that, because that seems like it's a great piece of property down there. Don't quote me on this, but I want to say it's about 20 acres of land down there.
23 or something.
And it's a piece of land that's been down there. It's not utilized well. We've got a river down there that's a wonderful asset to our community, but it's just not being used.
Right.
And we both talked about it, and we both have different ideas as far as what we need to do down in that area. And it just came out of the planning session that everybody kind of agreed that this is something we really need to focus on and go ahead.
Everybody, all council members?
Everyone. It was, we had a vote for it, and I think there was 33 votes or something like that. I don't know how they did the voting, but because there's only 7 of us that voted. But I don't know. I remember the number was 33, but
multiplication.
But it was way out there. It was the number one item, and it's just something that we feel like there's so much development that's going on in the uptown area right now, and it's kind of like, in my opinion, people go down there and they go eat, and they're going to be living down there. They're going to be living at the Boundary. They're going to be living at the new sidewalk project. They're going to be living at the new projects that are coming in the next few years. But what else are they going to do? There needs to be a reason for them to go down towards the river. We just feel like that would be a great asset to our city, and maybe we do something nice down there, and we can use that as pictures. When people are looking at bringing their companies here and say, "Holy cow, that's a beautiful that's a beautiful park down there." I mean, I shouldn't just say park. There's a beautiful location down there. The river's down there. Somebody asked me. I think it was somebody from the recreation department had asked me. They said, "Have you ever been on the river? Kayak down the river?" I said, "No, I've never been down there." And they said, "You have to do it." They said, "It's unbelievable."
It really
down
is.
there.
It is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I mean, it's just, and people don't get to see
But
that
we've never
perspective.
given people really the easy accessibility to get to it, or frankly, the reasons to get to it. And that does come down. And I've heard you talk about your plans, and I think McLean sent out a great email today, if you had a chance to read it, that really gave a lot of detail on his vision. But PJ, one of the frustrations, someone from East Carolina asked me about it, and I said, I've been here my whole life, 41 years old. There's never been anything on that town commons. And unless people can start agreeing on what to do, there's never going to be anything on that town commons. So how do you guys, in a short amount of time, because 2 years is your term, but those wheels, if you want to see something happen, are going to have to be put in motion.
Yeah.
And agreement is going to have to be reached across all 7 of you of how do you get this thing going and get it executed.
Well, I mean, and that's been the frustrating part so far. I mean, that's kind of the thing that we had talked about. It's the most frustrating thing is when we pick and choose town common. It's like, let's do phase 1, then we'll 2 years we'll do phase 2, then we'll do phase 3, and
That
it's
never
just
works.
like
It doesn't work.
it's been going on and on for some time, and we all kind of sat down and we were just like, let's just get it done. Let's just do, we had ideas up there. They were, let's do phase 1 and then let's do phase 2, in 2 years. And, it was brought up, somebody brought it up and it was put on the list of items that we want to talk about. Let's just get it all done. Let's just be done with it. Let's just go out there and finish it, and let's make Greenville a better place and give people an opportunity to go down to town common with different mixed uses that they can do down there.
Well, I think that's going to be the first thing, is everybody's got to agree to compromise. I have never seen it completely just as a park since the economy has changed. I mean, I was on that first committee where we did do it mainly as a park with the very first plan for it. But I think things have changed, and I think that we've all got to change our thinking about it, but try to incorporate as much. It's not going to be everything for everybody. But let's try to incorporate it and compromise as much as possible to still reserve some of the historical that some people want, still have, it can be beautifully done as a park, but still have, may have a restaurant, may have a small boutique hotel, may have, I don't know what the plan would be, but come to the agreement, open green space, come to the agreement. You cannot start developing it into anything until a compromise has been arrived at. This is what we're going to do. We are going to compromise. It's going to have to be this kind of a project. Now let's get going.
Yeah.
And then and with the economy the way it is, and obviously the city budget the way it is, the money's got to come from somewhere, and it will not be out of the city budget.
Well,
it's going to come from private dollars.
I think it's a good stopping place. We got to take our next break. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do need to take our second commercial break. We'll come back and we'll wrap it up with about 5 minutes left with PJ Conley.
Welcome back to Greenville Grit. We've had a great discussion today, still ongoing, with our representative of District 5, PJ Conley. We've been talking about the planning session that the City Council has just come out of. You're done with that for now, and then what will be the next step after that? Where will you all go from here?
Well, we're going to go down to the budget process. That'll be the next thing. And that's going to be that'll be what I love. I love to do the budget process, so we're looking forward to that. That'll be, I think, all the way up until, the end of May or the beginning of June that we'll finish that up. But that's going to be a very, very long, grueling process.
Yeah.
And it's a necessary process, like we talked about earlier in the show. So
Once you walk out of there, it's because you do enjoy the numbers. I mean, you have that chance to walk out of there with such insight into how that city runs, and really starting to identify areas of waste or efficiencies that we can gain from that.
So how many employees does the city have? Do we even know exactly?
Roughly, it's about 750 employees. I think it's give or take maybe 10 employees, but it's about 750.
Based on our budget and what you're looking at right now, I'm sure you're trying to not have to eliminate positions, or, we would really like to keep that pretty much like it is. That would not be
you think he's going to sit there and say, that's exactly what
optimum.
No, but I'm just, that would be our, for everybody concerned, that would be, that would not be where we'd want to look first. We'd want the departments to go in, like their copy paper, all of their supplies. We'd want to start there first, and then, but time and benefits has to be looked at nonetheless. That I would think benefits would be a big expenditure. And there has been talk about insurance and that sort of thing, so I'm sure you'll be looking into those types of things, because I know my insurance went up tremendously from December to January, $200 and some a month.
Yeah,
so I'm sure does it go up the same for the city?
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. The budget is unbelievable. I mean, it's not the optimal thing. We're not looking to go out there and start laying people off. I mean,
right.
That's not the plan. It's more or less.
And I wasn't suggesting that, but I was
it's more or less
saying
being more
for the public's benefit.
Poor guy on the spotlight. No.
No. I'm just saying.
But I mean,
rather than that, you'd expect the departments to go in, like you mentioned earlier, and try to see where they can, slim their budget down, or it could be employees may have to pick up some of the expenses of their benefits, like other companies have to do, unfortunately.
There'll be a lot
of discussion about that.
Yeah, there'll be a lot.
I'm not telling him to do that.
Haven't you figured that out?
I'm just suggesting that he might have to look at all of those areas.
There'll be a lot of discussion.
Well, and the
That's
one
right.
discussion I've told him I hope that they have, and I said this even last year, is taking some of those departments and rewarding increases in efficiencies.
That's right. I think that's a great idea, too. Just don't cut the fountain off of the city hall. I ride by there half the time. I thought that water's recycled anyway, and doesn't it go
I think
some
so.
kind of pump?
I hope so.
I don't
That's a lot of
understand
water.
why that water the fountains are cut off sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, you take your tours, your people coming
beautiful.
in, try to sell them real estate, and you ride by the town hall and the water fountain's off. I don't like that.
Well, we got 3 minutes left, so Terry, what we're going to talk about next?
I wanted to see what else was discussed besides town common. Were there other
Sports complex.
Yeah,
I
let's
wanna
talk about
that.
some other
Okay.
things. The
All right,
bond
Let's
schedule.
talk about that. Because we did bring that up on the bond committee.
The bond committee.
It was pushed through. Not 100% of the people were for it,
That's
but
right.
majority of doing, was that 15 million? Or
$13.5 million.
dollar sports complex. And for people who aren't familiar with that, they really need to look at what the city of Rocky Mount, a city really that has
They got it
struggled
going on.
a lot over the last 10, 15, 20 years, but they have done this complex and they're about to expand it.
That's right. Last
And
6
it's-
years have been awesome for them. An
Yeah.
increase every year.
I know McLean in his email had mentioned that. Any discussion of the sports complex?
That is something that we will consider. kind of where we're at right now, you know this because you were at the meeting as well, the Sports Alliance meeting. One of the things that they were going to discuss was going ahead and doing a study on that. And, the nice thing is it's going to be a private-public partnership on that. So, so the city's not going to be paying for the entire the planning of the sports complex. But one of the things that we wanted to really discuss was what was the need and what did we find that we need to go ahead and try to go after. And I suggested that to Andrew Schmidt, because I think when they bring it before us at the city council level, we need to kind of know, what the need is right now. Right. Maybe it's baseball, maybe it's an indoor facility, maybe it's, who knows, a lacrosse field. I mean, it could be anything. And I think once we have that study and we kind of see what people are looking for, and numbers don't lie. I mean, when you know what people are looking for, what is driving the economy, it's easier to make decisions that way instead of just going blindly and saying, hey, Rocky Mount has a bunch of soccer fields and a bunch of baseball fields, and they're making a bunch of money. Who's to say that we're not just going to pull off of their inventory and they're not going to pull off of our inventory?
And it could be something completely different. It's either complementary or it can be a completely different direction.
Yeah.
That's right. But I think that's another way, though, for us to look forward to building our revenue, because they are just really taking off there.
That's definitely going to be an interesting conversation. We are coming down to the end of the show. So, PJ, thank you again for coming on.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Enjoyable talking,
I enjoyed it.
and I'm sorry that Terry was trying to bait you.
No, I wasn't doing that. I was just trying to get some ideas out there.
It's good.
So thank you again so much to Greenville Toyota for your continued support, as well as the Overton Group, Overton Residential Properties, and Ribeye Steakhouse. Make sure to check them out and support them. You can catch us again on Friday night at 6:30, Saturday morning at 9:30 on Cable 7. Until next week, we will see you back on the Greenville Grit.